Good hello. Sometimes I think I get a bit carried away talking about the intricacies of how programs work, what buttons do what, certain techniques, the rules of animation, but of course when it comes right down to it, there are no real rules. Animation is supposed to be a fun and organic process, so here's a tutorial that you can follow along with despite the program you're using, and should hopefully help you relax a bit more creatively and enjoy the process without fear of mistakes, but I think you'll also learn a lot along the way. I certainly did making this. So let's jump in and animate a stick figure shooting the beam. To start this time I'm using Harmony Essentials, but you can use pretty well any program. But to start, throw in a color card layer, double tap it, open it up, and change its color from white down to just a bit of a light gray. This does a couple of things to make our process a bit easier. For one, we can draw white against the background and we'll be able to see it just fine. But also when going to the render view, if we didn't have a color card there, it would only show transparency, revealing only black. So if we turn our color card on, we can see everything just fine. So you would have seen from the start, I intend to create a stick figure dropping down from the sky. Is going to land and shoot a Dragon Ball Z style beam. A very simple one, but gets the message across. I'm going to be demonstrating a couple of different ways to go about doing this. Not necessarily do's and don'ts, but you might find it interesting to see the different results that can appear. Of course, I encourage you to follow along creating the same animation as well. It's very quick to do, but you're going to be able to feel the difference I'm talking about as you try out the different things I recommend, much more than if you were simply watching it. So to start, make an initial keyframe of Stickman falling down from the sky, arms coming out of the head. Insinuates he's falling. Activate the onion skin down in the toolbar. You see the switch is now turned on. I've set the brackets to about 2 frames either side, the blue brackets that come out the side of the timeline scrubber. Move to the next frame, and I'm gonna draw the next one on the ground. So he's crouching. He's just done an epic hero landing, and I'm being cautious, with my lines, making sure that everything's in a spot that I'm happy with. On the next frame, as you can see, the onion skin's going back too. I'm now going to the next keyframe, where he's now going to be standing. This is the anticipation pose. It's, falling, landed, standing, charging, shooting. That's the plan. You can see how many attempts I'm taking in order to get legs right, in order to get heads right, because these are key poses. So standing up more or less straight, but the feet are planted in the same position that they were when he was crouching. So now I'm adding a few more frames in to attempt to animate him stepping his feet in so he's standing up straight. So far I should have 3 keyframes, one of falling, one of landing, one of standing up but feet in the same position as the crouch, and one more keyframe now of him finishing his stand up where the feet are more together. So the 4 keyframes are done, and now we move into in-betweening them. So these 4 frames are going to go to the second last one, bump it out, delete the one in the middle, and start creating our first in-betweens. But they're a bit different to other in-betweens that you may have seen. You notice that this head is not going directly between the other 2, because I want to create some sort of anticipation. His body tilts back down in order to regain his weight, pull himself back up, so his legs will become more straight. An attempt to give it more fluidity, if you will. Figuring out where each of these keyframes goes can be a bit tricky at times. Do I make it directly in between? Do I lean it more to one side than the other in order to create a slowdown? Or do I in fact overlap it and push it further than the keyframe in order to give it some anticipation or bounce back? Some of these later ones are almost directly overlapping. Attempt to give it a slowdown, but not have it be completely still on the body as the leg continues to move. Now that that final step is done, go back to the beginning of the animation between the 2 initial keys of falling and landing. This one's going to have a smear frame, stretching the head out to make it look like it's dropping. Add in as many in-betweens as you feel necessary in order to smooth the movement out. Between each key pose, we'll usually have about 3 or so. At the end of that, I've expanded the exposure of all of the frames to 2, so it plays for a more suitable length. Chopped out a few more frames, added a bit more in betweens to smooth out what I can. But overall, that took in real time, about 12 minutes. But now for the second portion of the animation, going from a standing pose into firing the beam, I'm going to be ignoring all the rules. No pose to pose, no in-betweens, not thinking about tools or principles of animation or anything. New frame, draw a picture. New frame, draw a picture. Repeat. Do it as fast as you can. The act of doing this so fast takes away any sort of, clinical thought that can get in the way as to, is this right, is this wrong? Doesn't matter. Especially with stick figures, you can work at such momentum that you're literally just feeling the movement itself. We're not thinking about proportions or anatomy or anything big correct. I mean, it's a stick figure, who cares, right? It allows you to practice movement in a very stress-free way. If you're doing anything with more detail than a stick figure, it can take too long to do one frame that you forget the frame that came before it. You can see the kinds of frames that I'm adding. I'm usually starting with the head, and it's moving in from the right round to the left in a downward arc, like a pendulum swing. But all of the speeding up, the slowing down, anticipation, all that sort of stuff, it's just sort of happening because it's, you're imagining it. Just get lost in it. It's a harder thing to make a tutorial about, and you don't see as many of them out there because it isn't anything that can be taught. You just have to do it. And you probably surprise yourself with what comes out when you just go for it. Let the animation perform itself. This is still a valid technique. It's called straight ahead. Something that most stop motion artists still have to depend upon. Using a stop motion puppet, that thing doesn't come with an undo key. They just have to be very good movement artists. But there's no reason we can't do that too. It can be harder with characters more detailed than this, but consider one of the reasons why, keyframes and in-betweens were first developed in the first place was way back when 2D animation productions became so big that it was implausible for a single person to do large sequences. So you'd get a more experienced animator to just create all of the main frames that dictate the movement, then they'd pass it off to an assistant who made all the in-betweens for them. But we live back in an age now where it is very possible for one animator to take a shot from start to finish. Especially if you're just on your own, and especially if you're just practicing.
But especially, Bert.
You make discoveries that you wouldn't have thought of before because they're not things that get taught. They're just things that you stumble across and then it clicks. And you're like, oh man, that's how it works. You know that feeling. The only place this movement exists is in my head. I know I wanted him to swing up to bring his arms behind him and then thrust it forwards as hard as he could to project the beam. But one of the most notable things about experiencing this right now is it's so much faster. Look at that timeline. I've already made just as many frames as I had in the last one, and it's been like 3 minutes. Like seriously, a fraction of the time. This is so much more fun. Here moving into the thrust, this is the only exception I'm going to make here because I want it to be very snappy. It's going to have a single in-between with a smeared head. So why not? It's easy enough just to pull out that technique when I need to. Again, there are no rules when you decide to just go straight ahead. That doesn't mean you can't duck into the other techniques and tools when you need to. Keyframes and in-betweens, or anticipation and easing and bounce back and all that sort of stuff. Everything that's a conceptual idea, they are still just tools in the same way that your brush tool or your paint bucket is just a tool. They're things that have a time and a place, and it's up to you to figure out for yourself when's the most appropriate time to use them to create the most desirable result for you. This last frame now I'm doing a direct trace over so I can have that little nice bit of wobble as it's going, ah! So check it out, here's the animation playing so far. You can see a distinctive difference from the dropping down segment to the charging up the beam segment. In my opinion, the charging up segment looks way nicer. There's a lot more life to it, a lot more just kind of zing. The beginning part feels stale. It's a bit rigid. The mistakes jump out a lot more rather than, the second parts can be wobblier and the head changes size a bit more, but it feels almost characteristic, like it was deliberate, and that's okay. In the first section, it feels like a mistake, because technically it is. I put so much care into trying to make it smooth and it wasn't. How's your one turning out? Are you noticing something similar? How are you experiencing the difference between the first approach and the second approach? Maybe you found it to be quite the opposite, I don't know. They're so fast to do. The second portion took like 6 or 7 minutes in real time, like less than half as the first section. So they're so fast to do that there's no reason why you can't just practice them all the time. You always do them in one sitting. You'll just find yourself instinctively getting more and more ambitious every time. Alright, now finally moving into the energy beam itself. Go to the portion where you want the beam to start appearing and change the color card to a bit of a dark orangey color like this. This is simply to make it more complementary so the blue energy beam will stand out as much as possible. And how we're going to do this is there's a couple of fun tricks to increase the poofness of the beam. Sporadically changing its size is sort of the main thing, so it starts small, but if you animated it just getting a bit bigger, a bit bigger, a bit bigger, and then goes, it feels almost so fluid that the effectiveness is a bit taken away. So you might want to consider making it deliberately a bit jolty. So these first few, it gets a bit bigger and bigger each time as it is charging. The character swings it around a few times in frames coming up, so but now he starts moving it around his body a little bit, so why not? I'm going to give this a few smear frames as well. I mean, it is energy, it's light, so it should give it a bit of a nice fluidity to it. So give that a try on your one as well. Finally reaching the frontmost pose, I'm not going to go straight into firing the beam. You can increase the brightness of it by having just a fraction of hesitation to it. So I'm going to make it bigger, and then bigger, bigger, bigger still, and then on another frame suddenly have it disappear completely. Have it flash in and out. It's going to come back. It's going to be small. It'll be big. It'll be gone again. And then suddenly that impact from being small to gigantic before settling into the main beam is really what's going to make this as punchy as it can be. The beam shape itself is really simple to do. Use the shift trick if you're using Toon Boom. This is my favorite feature. Hold the shift key down while using the brush or the pencil and it will make your lines straight. I'm going to make 2 frames of this shape. One's just going to be slightly smaller than the other, and then by looping these frames, copy and pasting them all the way across. Here he goes. So that kind of works, but I want the initial impact to be even bigger. So on the first frame before it appears, gonna stop it here. I'm gonna delete the first frame and draw a great big wide bulb like this. Okay. So that's done now, and it's time to do effects. So this time I'm doing the effects in Harmony Essentials. If you're using Premium, you have access to the node view, which is a lot more expansive, but for Essentials and Advanced users, this is very possible as well. Making sure that you are in render view by pressing the little blue flower in the bottom leftish area of the camera view. Create a new layer by going to the plus symbol, going down to Effects and choosing Glow. A glow layer will be inserted underneath your current drawing layer. You can see it notched down here. Double click on it. Open up its layer properties and you see a bunch of different things. The very bottom has a gray box, that's its color. For now though, we're going to be using source color, this checkbox here. That takes whatever color your beam is and makes it glowy. Expand its glow radius out to 40 and the intensity up to 2. This gives it a harder edge but is very bright with a strong fade off. Makes it more energy-like. Now go to the plus, effects, and glow again. And another glow will be inserted underneath that. Pick it up, put it underneath the beam layer so the two rest neatly alongside each other. Glow 1 should be above, and you see it's now given it a hard edge. This time we will go to the color selector and bring it to white. So now it has a hot white solid core. Change its glow value to 20, so that's half of the other one, and its intensity down to 0.5. So you can see now what's happened here. The hot white core it's sort of like a bit of a lightsaber-y effect. It looks nice, but the issue with this is because that glow radius is reflected across the entire layer, if the shape of our energy is too small, it just creates a very ineffective like smudge. Do you see that? It's not too great. So we can fix this, make a third glow effect and rest it neatly alongside the others, but this one's going to be at the bottom. Use source color again, make its radius of 5 and change the intensity to 1.5. And you see now this will appear underneath the main glow. So it shouldn't really affect when it's at its biggest, but it will give us something visible for when it's smaller. And it has a bit of a crisper edge, which is more appropriate for when the character is holding the beam between his hands. So now our glow is in and it is looking fine. The last thing we want to do is add in a strobe. A strobe is when the whole screen will white out with just the intensity of his energy. To do this is really simple. Go back to your regular viewpoint, we're going to add in a new layer at the top. Select a brush, hold the O key down, and while your cursor is out in the camera view, pull out to the side and you'll notice your cursor gets real big. And with a white color selected, just do these ones across the screen, smear it all in white like that. So now for a single frame on a new layer, the whole screen has become whited out. That makes the strobe effect pretty good, but we can make it even more cool by, on the second frame, fill the layer in black. We're going to take a duplicate of our entire beam layer, select every single frame except for the one that is directly above the black shape. We're going to select white in the color palette, and with the paint bucket tool selected, lasso select around the beam, and that should change all of it to white. Finally, we want to put the effect onto this new vector shape. To do this, we simply need to select the 3 glow effects we've previously made. We're going to go to clone selected layers. They stay selected, and drag them up underneath the new drawing. That will apply a hot white glow to it, and we are done. And there you have it, a very simple Dragon Ball Z style shooty beam. I hope you enjoyed it and learned something. I learnt a lot doing this, just how much easier, how much faster, and frankly, how much better it turned out. Just relaxing and not thinking about the rules and just letting your imagination for movement go. Seeing what comes out. If you followed along with this tutorial, I'd love to see what you made. My Twitter's in the description. Tweet your results at me, I want to see it. Maybe I'll put them together in another video down the track. I think it'll be fun to see how different people approach the same idea. Even if you take what you've seen from this one and create something completely different with a straight ahead animated stick figure and a glowy thing of some kind. It's up to you. This is animation. Have some fun. And I'll see you in the next one.